Tony Curtis had an incredibly successful career in the entertainment industry, but his life was not without struggles. Although Tony Curtis had a very successful career, tragedy dogged his life. He was initially damaged by his mother, and he was never able to recover from that. Tony Curtis revolutionized the entertainment world in the 1950s and 60s by becoming one of the most in-demand performers because of his attractive appearance, endearing demeanour, and excellent performing abilities. However, he was suffering despite his fame, fortune, and seemingly ideal existence. He attributed it to his harsh mother, but he was unable to get rid of it. His parents, Helen and Emanuel Schwartz, immigrants from Hungary, raised Curtis. Money was hard to come by at the time. Emanuel had a tailor shop that was located behind the family's two-bedroom flat. Brother Julius and Robert shared a tiny bedroom with Curtis. It is crucial to note that Curtis's difficult childhood was not primarily caused by a lack of resources. That would be Helen, who routinely beat her boys and suffered from schizophrenia. The actor once acknowledged that Helen's mental condition wasn't discovered by his family until much later in her life. They wouldn't even finish their meals, and she would still hurt them physically. Curtis saw how his dysfunctional mother-son connection had damaged the rest of his life. Even as an adult it continued to be a part of him, and would manifest as grief. He stated, "When you are young you want everyone to love you. Where will you go if your mother doesn't love you or doesn't behave like she does?" Curtis claimed he would purposely skip school after acknowledging that his encounter with Helen and the lack of attention broke him as a youngster and made him obsessive. Despite the fact that he wasn't okay, he managed to give his parents the illusion that he was. Curtis sought to avoid his abusive mother by living on the streets because he was afraid she might strike him without cause. He first began going to the cinema when he was about 5 or 6 years old. Curtis changed even though he didn't spend more time with his sibling. He aspired to be an actor more and more as he watched movies. He would act out the situations he had imagined, even at that young age, by climbing onto the roofs of buildings. Due to Helen and Emanuel's inability to provide for their children during the Great Depression in 1933, things only became more challenging. Curtis and Julius were thus sent to a state facility. Both children experienced bullying, particularly at the hands of anti-Semitic teenagers who would pick fights just because they were Jewish. Unfortunately, Curtis was in store for 2 more disasters in life. Julius was struck by a vehicle when Curtis was 12 years old. Because Julius's original aim was to play with his brother, but Curtis instructed him to be with his pals, the actor took responsibility for the accident. Once Curtis was in the hospital, he said sorry to his brother, who was not awake. His feelings were spoken, and Curtis told him he loved him and hoped he could forgive him. Julius passed away soon after. Curtis was obviously upset by his death. If he could have 30 seconds with Julius, he once prayed and vowed to live a decent boy's life and never do anything bad again. Click here to watch this video next.